Awesome. Hello, guys. I hope you're all well and safe and now out of lockdown 2.0 in the UK. Tonight, Middlesex University Product Design Engineering, and Design Engineering are really excited to host the 8th talk in our annual guest lecture series. This is the final talk of the calendar year as well. So it's a really special one. These talks run weekly throughout the academic year on Thursday evenings, bringing together a vibrant mix of speakers from across the full spectrum of design and design engineering. A mix of leading practitioners, opinion leaders, radical thinkers, people doing really cool things, and hopefully will inspire and support the professional development for all of you guys, our students, alongside all of the staff who also join these talks as well. Tonight, we're super excited to host Tyler Sinnott, joining us from New York City, USA, a senior visual designer from Disney+. So Tyler's a graduate of the School of Visual Arts in New York City. He has a Bachelor's of Fine Arts in Design. If you read his bio, you'd have understood that his work has been sold out in sports stadiums, clothing stores across the USA, toy aisles across the world, and digitally in the world of video games as well. Tyler's specialism is in branding, digital marketing design, so like email, social media, web ads as well. And all of the details were sent through to you guys via email ahead of the talk, including links to Tyler's social media pages, LinkedIn, Instagram, and Tyler's website as well. So definitely feel free to connect with Tyler online. And without any further ado, Tyler Sinnott with a talk titled Selling Your Personal Brand. It's all yours, Tyler.
Thank you so much. Let me get my screen sharing here. I'm having an issue. I'm trying to fill screen here, but because I have the note presenter thing on the screen, and every time I pull that out, it won't actually let me do completely full screen. So you're gonna see a couple tabs up top the whole time, but
yeah, that's awesome.
I think we'll be all right. So hello, Europe. Is everybody located actually in London right now?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Nice.
Largely.
Good. Yeah. Good.
Yeah.
So I'm excited to talk to you guys tonight. I hope everyone has been looking forward to this talk. I promise it should be a fun one, and hopefully you'll learn something interesting by the end of this. To give a quick overview of this talk, I'm planning on telling you some tips and tricks to hopefully help you in your younger careers. I've been fortunate enough to work with some really cool brands over a short amount of time. So this is my first time kind of taking that process and putting it onto paper. So I'll show you some cool work I've created in the process as well. Everyone sees my screen, right? Before I get too far in?
Yeah.
Great. So this is me. I'm Tyler. I'm a 27-year-old designer living in the great state of New Jersey. And as most of you know, the top right corner of the United States is pretty much named after England. I'm currently working for the most famous mouse in history, creating performance advertising for Disney+ in New York City. My work has been in sold-out sporting arenas when I worked for the New York Mets and the New England Patriots. Hopefully at least at least one of those sports teams. My work has also been toured all over the US alongside musicians and their merch tables. And my work has appeared in retail stores, most recently on a Beyblade product that was sold around the world, which I actually have that here, and I'll show you guys that later. So I like to work in cool spaces. I love creating cool environments to work in. This is from my previous apartment, which had more space than my current apartment does. So right now I'm rocking the bedroom office combo, which I'm sure most people are if they have the space. I would say right out of the gate, I feel very strongly that you should create a cool and unique working space for yourself. And I think you'll end up creating better work in that process. I featured this on my website for the last 2+ years because it helps explain me as a person to people who've never met me. I'm fun, I'm quirky, and I'm creative, and people can see that when they go to the contact page on my portfolio. This image is front and center on that page. I also like to work with cool brands. Here is a kind of overarching summary of the brands that I've worked with. I've pretty much had the great pleasure of working with most of these brands in the past 6 years professionally, since I graduated from school. I did a lot of it by, moving from job to job quicker than most people would. And I'll kind of explain that a little bit later. As to, a lot of people see that as a negative. I've kind of learned a lot from that process. But a lot of these are freelance clients too. We have Oprah Winfrey Network, LA Galaxy. I'm sure you guys know a lot of these soccer teams, Major League Soccer, ESPN, Disney Plus, obviously Hasbro, one of the biggest toy companies in the world. And then there's a lot of sports in here. So I know that's something that people would probably recognize. So I'm going to show you guys some cool work just to kind of start it off and give you a feel for me as a designer. I know not everybody here is a graphic designer, right? Most people are like industrial design, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'll show you guys some cool design work that I've done. The overarching point of this class is to kind of help sell you professionally to people and how I've done that in my experience. So I started off my career in high school doing shirt designs for bands. Here's a handful. I would do shirt designs for bands, and then I started doing them for sports teams because I had the experience. But I would do shirt designs for bands to get into concerts for free. Being a high school student, I didn't make a lot of money. So what I would do is, if there was a band coming on tour that I really wanted to see, I would pitch myself. I'd say, "Yeah, I'll do free work for you guys. I'll do some shirts. When you guys come on tour near me, guest list me to the show. I want to bring my friends, all of that." And it worked surprisingly really well. Bands love free work, and they like, like most people, don't have a ton of money. So they were more than happy to take the free work. It was great portfolio work for me. And most of my shirt designs ended up being in the portfolio that I used to get into school initially. So I ended up going out to New Mexico, which is, in the southern part of the United States. And I got a full tuition scholarship to an art school out there. And a lot of that was due to the free shirt designs that I did for bands in my high school days. Here's a couple more. I've done a lot of Sharpie on paper, scan it. That's what a lot of these two examples are. Definitely being resourceful with what you have, using the tools that you have. That was all prior to me having a iPad and Procreate to kind of create those things a little more digitally now. But I definitely used to do things pen on paper, scan them, put them in there, and I've created some cool stuff with that process. So then I came back to New York City, and I went to school at the School of Visual Arts in Manhattan. And one of the biggest jobs that I've ever worked on, speaking of big, I'm a much bigger guy in these photos. I've lost 85 pounds this year, so I look a lot different now. But one of my first jobs was working for Sesame Street. And a cool thing for me has been working for a big name company like Sesame Street so early on in my career. And I'll explain this more later, but it kind of just snowballed. Once I worked for Sesame Street, other brands saw, one cool name and they said, "Oh, he worked there. Let's try him out here," because he's already worked for one big name company. So I had the honor of meeting Cookie Monster, and a lot of that work is available on my website if you guys want to check that out later. This came after Sesame Street. So I went from Sesame Street to the New York Mets. For those who don't know the New York Mets, they are the counterpart of the New York Yankees, the more famous New York team out of the two. But this is the New York Mets. They play in Queens, New York. The baseball stadium is beautiful. And one of their older players, Mike Piazza, his number got retired. So when they retire a number in baseball, no player on that team can ever wear that number again. So they retired the number 31. And when I was there, I had the privilege of creating Mike Piazza's number retirement patch, which ended up on game baseballs. That I think I have one sitting right here. Actually, it's the same thing from the photo, but my logo was on a official MLB baseball that they used in game. It ended up on the hats that the players wore, and here's a fan in the stands wearing one of the hats. Here's the players with the side patch with my logo on it. And again, these are guys making millions of dollars wearing something that I got the honor of designing. And then here's one of my favorite players, Curtis Granderson. And this was when they were doing his inauguration before the game and putting him on the row of numbers that were retired. And to see my logo blown up on a baseball stadium. And again, I think I was like 21 or 22 at the time when this happened. This was like when I first got into design. This was like I want to be able to do a side patch on a hat. I have a huge hat collection here. I have about 165 hats, I think, give or take. And when I first started collecting hats, I was like, I want to do one of these. This is my goal. And to be able to do that so early on in my career, it was incredibly inspiring because I took that as, I got this one, bucket listing right off of my list so early. What else can I do? How else can I push myself farther and farther? And that's kind of been my drive behind me as a designer, trying to see what's the next insane thing I can do as a designer. I set a bar for myself, and I'm like, cool, I worked for this company. I got to go to the World Series when I was at the Mets, and I went to the Super Bowl when I was with the Patriots, which I'll get to in a little bit. But all of these things that I set myself goals and I hit them so quickly that I was like, I got to find something harder and find something harder. And that's kind of been me professionally as a younger designer, is how can I set myself a new goal that's so hard, but I want to do it. That's kind of where I'm at right now. So then I went to the New England Patriots and I got to do some cool stuff there. Here's just some in-stadium signage that I was really proud of, just something different. While I was at the Patriots too, Gillette Stadium is the home of the Patriots. Both of the teams that play there, the New England Revolution, which is a Major League Soccer team, and the New England Patriots, both of their colors are red, white, and blue. So everything around the stadium was red, white, and blue everywhere. So I introduced the idea of bringing in a new color to the stadium, which is the baby blue. So the baby blue would live with just the stadium itself. So if they had concerts, any kind of just general stadium events, the baby blue would be associated to that, and the red, white, and blue would be associated with sports. I also got to rebrand their training camp, which isn't that high level of a project, but to see it flushed out the way it was, fans holding the footballs with my logo on it, they had merchandise with my logo on it, and I'll kind of show some of that quickly. Here's some fans holding the logo on the balls, and here's some signage that when you entered the training camp to watch the players practice, my logo was everywhere. And I have a photo of myself posing with the logo, which I was very proud of. And I used to do the rock and roll all the time. That was kind of my signature pose. And then after about a year of being there, I had the privilege of, well, the Patriots had a great season. So they went to the Super Bowl to play the Philadelphia Eagles. And I actually got to ride on the team plane out to Minnesota. Players sat in the back, employees sat in the front, and I got to fly out there. And because every employee gets a ticket to the game, but because I was actually working the game, doing social media graphics for the team, I had an extra ticket, so I got to bring my father to the game for free. So it still wasn't cheap for him to get out there because he had the last minute fly to Minnesota, find a hotel. Everything was expensive, but at least his ticket to get in was free. And the tickets retail value were like $1,600 or something like that. So very expensive. For fans of soccer, I recently did a Twitter emoji, which was a first for me. I've actually never designed an emoji at all, and that's kind of been a theme for me as a designer. Is I never did an emoji before the first time I did an emoji. I never did a illustration of a person when I did the Mike Piazza number retirement patch. So just because I haven't done something before, I don't let that keep me away from possibly taking on that opportunity. I've seen emojis. I know what they visually look like. I said I can replicate that style. And I did for this Twitter emoji for Fox Sports. This hashtag had 28 million impressions, which means 28 million people either posted this hashtag or interacted with it by seeing it. And it was really, really awesome, especially because this is one of the years that the women's team won the Women's World Cup. So to have something small on social media incorporated with that big event, that was really inspiring too. Here's just some cool stuff I did when I was at Hasbro. I don't know how to do 3D design, but I figured it out in Photoshop just to the extent that I could show people my idea on paper. There's a video game called Overwatch, which actually one of my logos is in the video game because of the Patriots. I did the logo for their esports team who plays in the Overwatch League. So I actually have a logo in the game. But when I left the Patriots and I went to Hasbro to do work there, I worked on the Overwatch toy marketing deck, the in-store merchandising deck. So this is a end cap that you would see at, here we have Target. I'm sure you guys have Target over there too. But what this is it's kind of a flatter table that they put a big fancy display on, and then they surround the products around the display. So I kind of took the in-game render of the payload from Overwatch for people who play it, and I designed this whole display around it that would showcase the bottom would have Nerf guns and the right side would have action figures. And it was kind of a cool thing because, again, I've never done this, but I figured out a way in Photoshop to fake 3D enough to look as good as I wanted it to build these displays. Then there were some that were kind of already pre-built displays, and I did more 3D photoshopping up top. So the actual bottom part of the display here was a pre-built template that we have. And then the top part, this like glass sphere where the Beyblades were battling in and clashing out of, that's something that I created this shape in Photoshop in 3D, did a little skew, and kind of got this bowl shape that replicates a Beyblade battle arena. And then here's another one. This toy line was called Beyblade Burst Rise, and they really wanted it to have like a skate park feel. So I tried to kind of give it these ramps and really kind of like this Tony Hawk insane, you know, trick kind of bouncing over the top of the end cap. So this was a cool one to work on. So the question is, how did I get here? Being 21 and working for some of the biggest sports teams and brands in the United States, sometimes I need to step back and think, how did I get here? There's a couple parts to why I think I've had the success I've had at a younger age. First, I'd say it was a little bit of luck. I started out my career with a cool internship, which was Sesame Street. When that internship ended, I landed my dream job at about 22 when I was working for the New York Mets. Over time, I added cooler and cooler brands to my resume and my freelance resume, and it was like a snowball rolling down a mountain. I was able to show bigger and bigger brands, the list of bigger and bigger brands I've worked with, and then they put their trust in me, and they said to themselves, you know, well, if all these brands trust Tyler, we'd be a fool not to. But that's not all. I mean, I had to sell myself to these brands, and that's kind of where selling your personal brand comes in. So what is selling your personal brand? It's a good question. This is something I've been trying to put on paper. It's something I've thought about for a while. When I was in school, my professor actually called me a professional interviewer, because when I was in school, I had already worked for brands like Sesame Street and the New York Mets and the New Jersey Devils, which is a hockey team here. And I interviewed with companies like HBO and Shazam, which is, I think, now owned by Apple. You can get your foot in the door of a lot of cool places, but it's about selling you as a person once you get your foot in that door. That's what selling your personal brand is. It seems so obvious, but I've picked up some experiences along the way that I'm hopefully going to try to share with you guys, and hopefully help you when you end up going for interviews and meeting with potential, even if it's potential clients. If you don't want to work for somebody, I'm going to try to help give you some tips that I've learned to help sell you for when you're in these in-person interviews. So I've been on a lot of interviews, and I gotta say, I think the bigger image, you know, the bigger thing that you want to sell is sell who you are. You know, be genuine with people. What type of work that you're into, what you're into just as a person. Just be relatable to people. So an example of that is I've been in interviews where I've talked about the art that I collect. As you can see behind me, I have a lot of art hung up, and I have a decent collection of KAWS vinyl figures, if you guys know who KAWS is. I've connected with hiring managers in interviews about things like that, and my hat collection and the concerts that I go to. If you get your foot in the door somewhere, people already like your work. So if they've already brought you in and they say, hey, come in for an in-person interview, or if a client wants to meet with you, they already like what you're doing. So at that point, it's how do I sell this person on me? How do I sell them on Tyler? How do I sell them on, you know, whoever you are? Talk to them as a person. That it's one of those things that it seems so obvious, but you know, I've been in interviews with people where they get so nervous and they get so hung up. And that's one thing you always have to remember, you know, when you graduate from school, is that, you know, if you're already there, if you're in there in person, they like you, they like your work. You got to be confident, and you have to kind of say, you know, you've bought into me already. You have me in here. Now you have to buy me as a person, you know, because that's one thing these brands or these companies can't gauge when they look at your portfolios, or they look at your, you know, whatever your however your work is displayed. They see your work and they like that, and they say, come on in person. We want to meet you as a person. And people tend to forget that more. You know, it seems so obvious, but people definitely tend to forget that. And another thing that people tend to forget is if you are applying for jobs, and if you're looking for work, or if you're sending your, you know, your stuff out to potential clients, if you're not hearing anything back for a while, you know, it never hurts to change things up and try something new. So if you're not getting your foot in the door anywhere, that's fine. Don't sweat it. I've even been there personally. Prior to getting my job at Disney Plus, I applied for a ton of jobs up in Massachusetts because I didn't want to leave Massachusetts, and I couldn't find a single job. And then I applied for one job in New York City, which was Disney Plus, and I got that one job. So, you know, don't get hung up if, you know, you are sending out a ton of resumes after you graduate and you hear nothing for a while. Another thing is I've been pigeonholed as a sports designer before. All of the clients I've worked with, and my logo, which is, you know, seen here behind me, even push that idea. However, I've worked with toy brands and children's television, and now a streaming service, all of which couldn't be any more removed from working in sports. However, people get hung up on the really small things. So if you're not hearing back on jobs that you're interested in, don't be overly critical, but use it as an opportunity to try new things. Present a different portfolio, maybe A/B test a resume. If you guys don't know what A/B testing is, it's you send out 2 different resumes that look completely different. Same thing with the portfolio. You could send out 2 completely different looking portfolios. And if you have a better response on one than the other, then you say, I'm doing something right here. Let me keep doing this and scrap this. This isn't working. I'm going to throw this out. As designers of any type, part of your job is to create solutions to problems. And one of those solutions could be a solution to the problem that you're having yourself, which is, trouble finding a full-time role, or trouble finding clients if you're just trying to go fully freelance. And I think one of my best case studies of selling my personal brand was when I interviewed for the Hasbro toy company for a contract role. I had 0 experience working with toys. I grew up with toy brands like Beyblade and G.I. Joe and Power Rangers, which are all under the Hasbro umbrella. But it took a good amount of confidence to sell them on the fact that I could confidently go from working in pro sports with pro athletes and doing social media graphics to creating 3D merchandise displays that I had literally 0 experience in. Again, I had a super relatable conversation with the hiring manager. We connected, and he was just excited to hear about me as a person. And he was more than happy to show me the ropes, because he knew that the 1-year contract he had to offer, it'd be more enjoyable just to work together. And, and the fact that we could relate when we had that one-on-one conversation before I actually took the job. So if you can sell you as a person to the hiring manager, that's definitely the end goal of what you're trying to do. Is you want to make sure that you can say, even though I have no experience in this, I'm so confident that, I can figure it out, and you guys like working together, that's why people want to hire you. And that's definitely a big part of selling your personal brand. So now I'm going to kind of get into the little nitty gritty of what I think a personal brand is. And again, a lot of this seems super obvious, but I'm going to kind of explain my thought process behind, what all this means and how I think it's helpful. And again, I know everybody here isn't a graphic designer, but a lot of these are relatable to, you could take this list on the right and put it to any company. You could say Google needs a good logo, Google needs a strong website, and Google needs a good presence. It's not a good person, but they need a good internet presence. They don't want to look like a scummy company that's doing, sneaky things, even though they are. They put this image out that we're good people, come look at the doodle of the day, that kind of thing. So how do you do it, and what's the recipe? Honestly, I think that's for each person to figure out on their own, because I don't think there's one set method that works for everybody. I know this might not be 100% relatable to you guys, but I'm going to kind of just go through the ropes and explain to you how I think this can work, and you guys can take what you want from it. I think a good logo is key. Considering you as a person, you are your own brand. All good brands have to have strong logos. A strong logo ensures trust. If you look professional and you invest that time into yourself, people will trust you and invest their brand with you as a creative. And again, if you went to Google and it was just typed out text with if you could highlight it like it was like a Word document, you'd be like, this doesn't feel right. But when you go to Google, or you go to these strong companies that have great logos, Apple, all those kind of things, you trust those companies because they've put a lot of effort and refinement into their brand. And people definitely downplay how important their own personal branding is. People come to my website, they see the logo animate, and they say, that's something different I've never seen before. He's already doing some cool stuff. Let me keep looking at the rest of the stuff. My business card I have one sitting here. I'll show you guys. I'll show you at the end too, when I'm not so tiny. But my gold foil business card to match my black and gold website, and I have the gold foil logo behind me, and all these kind of little pieces that I put together to help craft my personal brand. People really notice these things, and I've had people call them out to me. The other day, I had a conversation with a buddy who's a recruiter at Facebook, and he was complimenting me, saying that I had one of the nicest portfolios he's ever seen, which I didn't take that and just pat myself on the back. I mean, I kind of just reflected and thought about all the effort that I put into kind of, creating that presence that people go to, and they trust my website when they see it, and they trust the work, they trust the logo, all that kind of stuff. So that kind of brings me to my next point, is a strong website. A simple user experience is key to a portfolio website. I've gone to portfolios where it's a huge mess just to figure out where the work is, how to get to it. And I'll explain this more in a couple more slides when I get to show you just kind of some screenshots of my site and explain my thought process behind it. But there's been websites where you have to click a hamburger menu, and that hamburger menu scrolls down these giant names for each title, and I don't know what each title is, and I click it and it goes to some project, and it's like, well, that's not what I wanted to see. So I have to go back to this hamburger. If it's like a multiple step process just to see work, I feel like you're making it harder for people to, quickly see your work and get out. And I always tell people that, if a hiring manager is coming to your website, they don't have all day to sit there and look at every single person's website who applies for a job. And you want to be super quick and say, here's my work, here's the good stuff, click what you want to see, get out. So that way you just can quickly analyze the biggest parts of my website that were successful. And you don't have to try to figure that out yourself. And, they can spend a good, couple minutes and they only see 1 or 2 projects because it took them so long to do that. Whereas if you make it quick and easy for them, they might see 4 times or 5 times as many projects, than they would have, because you made it that much easier for them to click through and see what they wanted to see. And then lastly, being a good person. And that's not even like a karma thing. It's really just, if your work is already good enough to get you in the door, now it's your time to, you have that chance to sell yourself as creative. And I've said this a lot already, but at the end of the day, the person is hiring you. They like the work that they do, but you need to be able to sell you as a person. You could be the greatest designer in the world, greatest creative, no matter what you want to do. But if you're rude, or if you're overconfident, or even if you're just boring, people would rather work with somebody who is a little less talented that they could teach, with a little less experience, that's more personable, that somebody might be more interesting to work with. And again, so when you go in for in-person interviews, be conversational, have fun. I've gone on interviews where I've brought sticker packs with me. I have a huge collection of stickers here that a lot of you probably saw on my website. I genuinely believe that I got my last job at Disney because I brought sticker packs with me and I gave it to every single person that I met with. And when they went back to their desk and they had my sticker pack sitting on their desk as they thought about, did they like meeting Tyler as a person? That came to their mind. They say, oh, he gave me this fun gift. I love the little stickers in here. They're super fun. They're cutesy. People remember things like that. So I would say leave behinds are a huge thing for interviews. And it's one of those things, when I first heard about it, when I was in college, leave behinds, people would leave little books with their work in it and all that kind of stuff. If you have some way to kind of give somebody that extra reminder of, here's my resume, but also here's a little something that you can have on your desk that's like, oh, this guy was cool and I like meeting him, and whether it be pins or stickers or whatever. If you guys are building miniature versions of industrial design related things that you have, those are cool leave behinds for people, and I think that's something that can set you apart from another person that's applying for the same role. So you got to kind of always have those pieces in mind. Now I'm going to kind of talk about my logo. I would say, just because you think something's perfect, never try to push the envelope and try something new. I'm at this point right now, as you can see the logo behind me, and I showed you on my business card. I love this logo so much. When I first started out, I changed my logo. I came up with different company names because I used to hide behind a fake persona. I had fake, when I started out doing MySpace layouts in like the mid 2000s, and I created fake business names to seem more professional. I had all these random names, and then I eventually bought this website domain, which most of you probably saw, which is www.tyler.nu. And I really wanted the shortest possible domain I could have. So if I didn't have a business card with me and I met somebody in person and they said, oh, I'd love to check out your work, it's really easy. It's just tyler.nu. And people remember that because it's so weird, especially the .nu part. It stands out to people and they always ask me, what is .nu? And I looked it up a couple of years ago, and it's a small island off of, I think, Australia. And it's literally called NIUE. It's a small island off of Australia. I think it has a population of 2,000 to 4,000 people. And for some reason, they have their own domain ending. And that alone has so much weight in my personal brand. I used to actually just call my company Tyler.nu because I wanted it to seem more professional than just Tyler Sinnott, who was a nobody for a while, until I started having all these big name clients that I could confidently just say, I'm Tyler. You want to hire me. You don't want to hire my fake company. You want to hire me as a person. And I definitely think it worked hiding behind the fake persona for a while, because I kind of had to have that confidence to switch over and say, I want you to confidently just say, I want to hire Tyler. I don't want to hire Tyler.nu, this fake designer. That's when I was trying to just pitch myself to clients. But when I was trying to get hired as a person, it came off less professional to have a fake company to hide behind. And it felt way more professional and confident to say, I'm Tyler. You want to hire Tyler. I'm the real deal. Don't hire people with fake, company names. So here's just some quick examples of kind of an evolution of my current mark. I really like this baseball script thing, and I tried creating a bunch of logos myself. First one was a simple sans serif typeface that I just kind of matched the weight and hand drew these elements on it. It was good, but the problem was, again, the Tyler is so left leaning. It was just really unbalanced, and the Y was too close to the S. There was a lot of small details that I didn't like about it. So I got closer to the baseball script look that I really wanted. Again, same problem was that this logo is now super right leaning, and I couldn't really center it too much because the Y would have got too close to the star. So I kind of ran into a lot of issues with this logo. I kept this one, I think, for about a year or so, and then I bailed on that. And I eventually found the current one, which a lot of people think I hand drew, and I wish I was that talented to hand draw that. But that's actually a typeface that I modified, and I stacked it, and I kind of arranged it perfectly so it has this nice centered feel. And then I skewed it at an angle. And what's cool is the angle that my logo is at. If you go to my website, the navigation on my website, everything is at that same angle. So I took the detail of figuring out what that exact angle was and branding the rest of my website. So anytime anything's on an angle, it's the exact same angle as my logo, which is something I'm very proud of that most people don't realize. But if they took the time to realize that, they would definitely appreciate that. So that carries us right over into my website. And I used to change my website like my logo. I used to change it all the time. I'd think of something super cool and super creative, and I'd see another website that I liked, and I said, I want to do that, and I want to do this. And I ended up with this website about 2.5 or 3 years ago, and it's kind of slightly evolved since where it initially started. It initially started as I had these squares, and they were broken up by category. So I had apparel, logos, I think I might have had social, web, things like that. And it definitely worked for the time being. But once I started getting these cooler clients, some of them were just places I worked and some of them were freelance clients, I changed the homepage so it became less of a here's the work by category and here's more of a visual resume for when you get to my website. So right when you land on Tyler.nu, you see all the clients I've worked with. And right now, you don't even have to go to my about page to say, oh, I wonder the brands he's worked with. They're right here. You're looking at them. And then if you specifically recognize one and you say, oh, I know Sesame Street. I grew up watching Sesame Street as a kid. That might be the first one you click. And I really wanted to make it very obvious that if you want to see a specific brand, you can click that and you'll see all the work that I've done for that brand. And then the top navigation, the work is up there. If you want to learn about me, if you want to shop some cool stuff, and if you want to get in touch with me, very simple, not confusing. And I used to change my website all the time. I don't do it anymore because of how confident I am that this is very clean user experience. If you want to see what you want to see, you know how to find it, and it's not confusing at all. So I would just say when you guys eventually go to present your work, definitely keep that in mind. Show it to other people and just say, is this confusing at all for you? And take the feedback. If people say, yeah, I kind of had a tough time figuring this out and figuring that out, take that feedback and say, let me fix it, because that might be the one difference that keeps you from getting a job over somebody else. And if you click my about page, I'm also really proud of this. I wanted my about page to feel really inviting and really friendly. Some people are hit or miss with showing photos of themselves. It's kind of if you're self-conscious for any reasons, that's fine. But I found that knowing what a person looks like is kind of helps sell their personal brand even more, because this is Tyler. Here's some cool things he's into. This is a little summary about him as a person. I'm obviously talking in third person, but this is just a quick little way to say I want to meet him in person now, because he seems interesting. He's got the baseball bat. He loves sports. He's really into concerts and hats and all that kind of stuff. And then at the bottom, I have my current favorites. And that was something I only remember. I don't think I saw that on anyone else's website. I think that was something that I thought of, and I said this would be really neat to do. So I added that in, and I've had a lot of people call out specific things on there. A lot of people know my favorite show is The Office, and I've had people in conversation bring up my favorite hat. I've worn my favorite hat before, and people will be like, "Oh, that's your favorite hat from your website." So even though people might not acknowledge it every single time that they talk to me, they you know, they do look at this kind of stuff, and it is a good conversation starter, especially when you go in and meet somebody in person. It's just one of those things to kind of, you know, make you feel relatable to somebody else. And again, I feel like that's such a strong thing to do when you're selling yourself to hiring managers, is just say, I'm relatable. You know, these are things that we can talk about before I even come in person, outside of my work. If you like my work, bring me in. And if you want to talk to me as a person and get to know me, here's a couple of things that you might already want to know. And then we can talk about it when I come in. And then lastly, the shop is something that I've done. I've had these stickers, and they're all sitting here in this nice little organized drawer system. But I've had stickers for years, and I never sold them. I've had people tell me, "Oh, you should put some stuff on your site so I can buy them and you could ship them to me." And I used to just be like, "Just give me your address. I'll ship it to you for free. I don't care." But I realized I was kind of missing an opportunity here, because I don't make a ton of money off these stickers. But what's cool is when people go to my shop, it's a really unique way for me to show passion projects. And my shop is one big passion project. I've taken a bunch of small little things that I like to draw. I did the super soakers. I did the, you know, the peace sign, the eagle, the chrome eagle. I'll show you that one in person, because that one's cool, really cool to see. But this was a logo I pitched for an esports team, and then I wanted to get it made, so I did a black on black chrome eagle. And I don't sell a ton of these, but it was more just to show people a really cool way of presenting my work. And that's kind of the biggest benefit of the shop, is these are all little doodles that I did that I wouldn't put with a specific project on my homepage, like, you know, the Patriots or the Mets. But people like to see these kinds of things. So it kind of just shows that I can do different styles outside. I can do typography. There's some typography in here. A little okie dokie sticker is a cool example of typography. And this definitely wouldn't be something that I could showcase on a project, but to showcase it on a sticker, people say, oh, he can do, you know, a little bit of everything. And that's the nice part about the shop, is showing that I have fun passion projects on the side. And I'll show you guys a little more of it at the end. Yeah, in closing, I just want to say, definitely take time, invest time in crafting yourself. School projects are great. You'll learn so much from your teachers and all the projects that you do, but show people what you're interested in as a person. A lot of projects on my site, my LA Sparks rebrand, that was a passion project. I got paid nothing to do it. It ended up only living on my website. But when people go there, they can see I did that whole project in about 24 to 48 hours. And that shows people something I'm really interested in. So I think there's so much weight that's in passion projects, and showing people just you as a person. All of that kind of ties into your personal brand, the stickers, all of that kind of stuff. You know, it's great to create some really awesome work and do all that kind of stuff, but just show people that you're fun, show people that you like to try new things, and people really respond positively to you experimenting outside of, you know, your standard 9-to-5 job. What you do after hours, your side projects, your side hustles, even if it's not anything directly, like if you like to bake on the side and you have recipes on your website, those are all things that help craft you as a person and sell your personal brand to hiring managers or to your future clients. So I'll show you guys a couple more quick things, and then I will definitely take questions. I'm going to stop screen sharing for a second, and then we'll come back to that. One of my bigger projects that I talked to you guys about was I did a logo for Hasbro that ended up on Beyblade products that were sold actually across the world, because this box is already translated in a bunch of languages. But I did this Battle League logo, which is kind of esportsy feeling, and it's actually seen on the back here too. And this was cool because this was a product that, growing up with, my little brother was really into Beyblades, and me and my older brother would play Beyblade with him to kind of, you know, something to bond, because he was 5 years younger than me. And to be able to say in my adult life that I had a toy that has my logo on it, it's cool, it's surreal, and it's something, as a kid, I never thought that I would put something that I created on a box, on a toy, and go to Target and pick it up in person. So that's something I'm incredibly proud of. And then on the note of my shop that I was showing you guys at the end, I have a new product launching on Friday. I did pins for the first time. So what's kind of cool is this is my business card, and then this is the backing for the pins. So I'm really trying to brand my whole experience when people come to my website, or if they know my card or whatever. everything feels similar. So here's one of the pins. This is the Super Soaker pin. And then I have a gold foil version of my logo on the back. And here's the other pin. This is the flycatcher, and same thing, gold foil, and then my logo on the back. So doing fun stuff like that on the side, people definitely take notice of those things. Anyways, I will end there for now. I will open up to questions. I might have ended a little sooner than expected, but I have a feeling you guys probably have a decent amount of questions. So I will gladly answer everything to the best of my ability.
Amazing, amazing. Thanks, Tyler, for the really interesting, informative lecture. Your journey, your work, some advices interwoven through that as well. A really nice way to conclude the calendar year and the guest lecture series for 2020. And guys, feel free to gather your thoughts, your questions, and any of your comments in the chat. And if you wanted to go live and interact, also feel free to let me know, and you can always unmute yourselves and do that. And a question coming in from Tom Millward. What platform do you use to make your website?
Good question. So I use Squarespace for my website. I've been on Squarespace for, I think, 3.5 years or so. I've been trying to switch. I want to move over to Webflow, because Webflow, you have a lot more creative freedom. And I've had issues with my Squarespace site not loading as of recently. I would say in the past couple months, it's been great. But I noticed at the beginning of the pandemic and the quarantine, I was checking my website a handful, and I'd send people, especially when I launched the sticker store, which I did during the pandemic, I'd send my site to people and they would be like, it's not loading. And I'd go to it and it wouldn't load. So a lot of that was because of Squarespace, and I was getting a little frustrated with that. However, it's so, again, I'm so confident in the layout of it that I really don't want to change it anytime soon. So I'm sticking with Squarespace for now, but my goal is longer term when I do my newer version of my website to change it over. But there's a lot of custom coding on my website too. So if you started with a template in Squarespace, the cool thing is you can go through and change a lot of it too to add that customizability. So like when you go to my page and you hover over a client and it comes in the full color, that's custom coding that I added. The skewing of the navigation and the underline in the navigation, that's all custom code and stuff like that. So there's a lot of cool things you can do with Squarespace.
Awesome. And Demi Banjo is asking, who or what is your biggest inspiration as a designer?
That is a good question. I will, I'll actually screen share my answer for you. A lot of you may know this artist. He's actually from your neck of the woods. Screen share. So this has been my biggest inspiration as of recently. This is David A. Smith. He created one of my favorite album arts of all time. So John Mayer's Born and Raised is my favorite album ever. And he does these amazing gold leaf signs. And he actually, if you guys have time later, I highly recommend, there's a video of him talking with John Mayer about this album art. And then it's probably a 20-minute video that somebody made on Vimeo. And it shows him hand drawing this entire album art and coloring it in and all that kind of stuff. And then he makes some glass signs for John Mayer. And seeing all of that work from start to finish, it's mind-blowing. It'll change you. And what's actually cool is his daughter made this glass sign for me. They're in, I'm trying to remember what part of England they're in. I think they're in southern England, but super talented family. And I mean, his work is just, it's phenomenal. So I am nowhere close to that level, but I've gotten more into that kind of vintagey typography as of recently. And over my later career, this is the kind of style that I want to eventually evolve into, is doing some very, very refined line work and typography and all that kind of stuff. I'm not there yet. I'm nowhere close, but this is definitely one of my biggest inspirations.
Amazing. And then the next is more of a comment from Javier Ortega. He said, "This is the best lecture of the year. Thank you, Tyler."
Wow, I appreciate that. I've actually never done a talk like this, so I didn't know going into it. I was kind of trying to, I've never taken this thought process of how I, sold myself in person to people before in interviews and stuff. And I've never taken that and put it onto paper before. So it wasn't easy. And I appreciate that you guys responded positively to it.
Amazing. And Adam mentions, what do you regret not doing sooner?
That's a good question. It's a tough answer, because without sounding too confident, I've done a lot very soon in my career. I don't think there was a lot that I could have done quicker. I will say, and I kind of touched on this when I first started off, that I haven't really stuck around at a single job much longer than a year and a half. And every time I leave a job to go start another one, I always hear the talk from family members that's like, if you keep bouncing around, people aren't going to want to hire you. And again, without sounding too confident, my answer is always, I'll believe you when they stop wanting to hire me. Like it's that's definitely a very old school thought process, is that you have to stick at a job for 10 years and then move to another one and all that kind of stuff. And that's just not really the way it is anymore. And I would say the older generations don't, I think they're starting to get that now, but the biggest benefit to me moving around from company to company, and again, this isn't really an answer to the question, but I'm just kind of, branching off on that question, is, the biggest benefit is that when I go from one company to another, the company that hires me, they say, he has a lot of experience from all these different brands, and he can take all that fresh experience and bring it to our company. And that's a good selling point to these brands, is they say, if Tyler sticks around for 2 years, that's great. He's going to take the 3 years before that of all of these different brands that he's worked with and bring that here. And we're going to be able to implement some new stuff into that company. So I think that's why people are willing to take a risk on me. And again, I can't say that there's anything I wish I had done sooner. I'm 27 years old and I'm a senior designer, and most of the senior designers I work with are in their maybe early 30s. So I'm definitely ahead of the curve on a lot of stuff, and I'm definitely proud of that for sure.
That's amazing. And now Brady, Brady Hanson, he wants to go live. And Brady, feel free to unmute yourself and turn on the video, and feel free to interact with Tyler live.
Totally.
Cheers, I appreciate it. Thanks, Tyler. I appreciate your talk. I'm an American myself, and I hate to inform you, there's no targets over here.
Is there no targets? All right, that reference went over everyone's head.
Yeah, there's no targets here. Quite sadly, I missed a target.
I love Target.
Yeah, me too. So my question is, though, related to your social media presence. How you talk about your website and you talk about your portfolio and things like that. How much has your social media presence played into finding jobs, but also selling your personal brand?
That's a good question. So I will say, when it comes to my personal brand, that's the one thing that lacks, is my social media presence. I recently created an Instagram handle solely for my work, and I've just found that I don't have the time to keep it up enough. If people go to my personal Instagram, a lot of times people, like random people I don't know, designers and stuff, will try to follow me on my personal Instagram. That's just photos of me and my family and my family dog and everything. And right in my description, it just says, if you want to follow me to see design work, just go to my website. That's what my website's for. I put all my design work there. If you want to follow me, you're just going to see photos of me and dumb stuff I'm doing throughout the week. So yeah, I tried running a Instagram recently, and I'm probably going to try to relaunch it. And the only reason why I have interest in doing that right now is mainly for the store, is to promote products and get people to buy stuff. I definitely could. I know of a lot of designers, especially from Massachusetts, that I'm friends with, who run a social media presence that they get a ton of client work. One person, they do typography, and I think she had one of her stuff reposted from like a bunch of accounts one time. Like Hillary Duff reposted her account, and this is just a girl I casually know, and she went from, I think, like 4,000 followers to like now she has 15,000 followers in a span of a couple months during the pandemic, just by doing typography. So I would say there's a huge benefit to doing social media. I personally just don't really have the bandwidth to take on more work, so I haven't really invested in it. But if I did want to go full-time freelance, I would say investing in my social media presence would probably be the best way to do that.
Awesome, thanks.
So it all depends on you as a person and what you're trying to do. If you're trying to work for yourself, social media is your biggest tool. If you are content with working for other people and you're not interested in taking on more work, then you're kind of putting all that effort in just to tell people no all the time,
No, I get you. All right, appreciate it. Thank you.
Totally.
Awesome. And Ibrahim Javid, he says that's really cool stuff. And Mohit Dogra, he mentions childhood memories from seeing all of the stuff that you've
oh, thank you. Yeah, it's been great, especially when I started working at Hasbro. One of the projects I worked on when I was there was Power Rangers, and they had just bought Power Rangers from Saban Brands. If anyone doesn't know about Saban Brands, when there's a NPR podcast called, I think it's called how they built this, or how we built this, whatever. And there's one where the guy interviews Haim Saban about buying Power Rangers and his whole story about going to Japan and seeing these TV shows that were basically Power Rangers in Japan. And he was like, I want to buy this style, bring it to the United States, and he sold it all over. And what was cool was when Hasbro recently bought that whole franchise from him. And when I started at Hasbro, one of my first projects was working on Power Rangers, and I am as old as that franchise is, which is kind of interesting.
Amazing. Joseph Salem, feel free to unmute yourself, go live, and interact with Tyler.
Yeah. Firstly, thank you very much, Tyler, for that lecture. That was amazing.
Thank you.
I'm actually quite interested in toy design as well, and my dream is actually to work for Hasbro. So my question is, I know you said that you didn't have much experience in toy design, but what would you say the main thing was that actually helped you get the job? You know, was it like your, you know, what was some of the things that you had in your portfolio?
That one was kind of interesting because throughout my career, I've never really gone the route of using a resource to get me into places, like using somebody I know. However, when I was at the Patriots, we worked with this agency in Boston, and they had done illustrations for our tickets, and that same company did a lot of work for Hasbro. So I had talked to one of the owners at the agency, and I just said, hey, you know people at Hasbro. I was like, do you think you can open that door for me? And he did. And he said, yeah, go talk to this person and kind of, you know, head down and meet with them at some point. So my answer is not that good, because it would just be, I just happen to know somebody who knew somebody who worked at Hasbro, which has never happened for me before in my career. All the other times it was based off kind of my work. But yeah, I didn't do toy design while I was there. I literally just did logos and stuff. So like on this, all I did was the actual branding that was in the corner here. So I would say LinkedIn is great for networking. If there's a role that you want at a specific company, you know, connect with talent acquisition people at these companies, and even just reach out to them. Because I've applied for jobs, but if you message somebody directly and say, you know, because when I applied for my job at, I believe it was the Patriots, I think they said 500 people applied for that job. So anything that you can do to help set yourself apart is totally key. And even just sending somebody a message on LinkedIn that just says, hey, I'm incredibly interested, you know, you might have taken that extra effort that somebody else might not have. And they said, this guy reached out to me, he's definitely interested in this role. You know, let's try to just bring him in for an interview, or at least they can internally say, oh, hey, I got this guy's portfolio, you know, check it out when you have time, all that kind of stuff. Networking is definitely key. I've gotten a lot of clients that way, just freelance clients and stuff. I've emailed people directly. I got work for ESPN before I actually worked for Disney, who owns ESPN. And it was a LinkedIn thing. I was LinkedIn friends with them, and I just said, hey, if you ever have any freelance projects for ESPN that you need help on, let me know. 2 weeks later, he was like, hey, I got a project I could use your help on. So talking to people, connecting with people on social media, LinkedIn specifically, I think is super key for getting specific roles that you want.
Okay, thank you.
Totally.
Awesome. And Javier Ortega, he's asking them, how do you print the really cool cards with gold ink?
Oh, that's a good question. So there's way better ways to do this and way more professional ways. I use this company called Moo, which is based here in the States, and they're actually near my old stomping grounds, which is in Providence, Rhode Island. And they do amazing gold foil cards. Usually gold foil has to be done, I think a lot of times with like letterpress and stuff like that. I don't fully understand how they do it and how they do it so cheaply, because it's usually a very expensive process. But my business cards specifically, I mean, again, I'll show you guys on camera, but these came out super well. This design for the business card is a newer one that I'm just obsessed with, doing that pattern line work. That kind of goes towards the David A. Smith style that I'm really trying to achieve. But even on the back and the Made in America, I just kind of wanted it to have this old timey feel, which is at the footer of my website and stuff. It's not like a political thing. It's just, I wanted it to feel kind of like turn of the century, very old school, you know. Yeah, so moo.com does these. I don't know how they work with international, but I'm sure the international shipping on a box of business cards isn't too expensive. I got this whole box recently of all the backs of the pins, and I got 175, and I think it came out to close to $1 per card just because of the gold foil.
Awesome. Yeah, Moo's available here as well in the UK.
Oh yeah, Moo's great. If you have the option, I recommend Moo. And even if they screw up your card, there's been times where the gold foil looks very digital and pixelated around the edge. I just tell them and I complain to them and I send them a photo and they say, great, we'll redo it. And they just completely redo it for free. So
amazing. And talk with us. You wanted to go live. Feel free to unmute yourself.
Yeah. Hey, Tyler. So
hey.
Thank you very much for agreeing to do this for us. And you did great for the first time. So my question would be, what is next? We had a year of complete destruction, which shaked everyone, every field, especially design guys. In the first lockdown, when I was in Finland, I heard stories of companies with 20 years of working closing down every day. And right now I'm working in second largest coffee company, just as you are in one of the largest media companies. What is your thought? What is going to be next for us, the creatives? Are we going to work more from home and be all around, or what? What the heck is going on?
I definitely don't have the strongest insight to this, but I will say I definitely see the work industry changing as a whole. I know Disney was supposed to build an entire building in Manhattan that's the size of a city block, and they were going to put ABC and Marvel and Disney Plus, all of the companies that they have within New York City, the theater offices, all that kind of stuff. All of that was going to get put into this one building. It's interesting because I think they're still going to build that building. I wonder what they're going to do with the space, and I wonder, are you going to have a set desk when you get to an office, or are you going to have an office area where you show up once a week to meet with your team in person and talk to them, but the rest of the week you're working from home because that's so much safer and the company doesn't have to worry. You probably have to use less sick days because you're surrounded by less groups of large people. So I see personally in the bigger, larger companies that you're going to have weirder office setups where they're just they're almost like WeWorks, but for companies. So basically they're going to take that WeWork mindset of offices that you can rent, but they're going to own the offices. And they're going to say, we don't have to, commit to a whole 3 floors for Disney Plus. Disney Plus can have 1 floor, and the 3 floors worth of people will just come in at different times and use the office when they need to, clean it at night, and then it's sanitized. And, I think there's less concern about, people getting sick as a whole, not even in a pandemic world, but in a regular world, you'll have less sick days and more productive companies. So I think this was kind of a weird learning lesson for a lot of companies, that a lot of companies, like my mother, she's a receptionist at a small insurance company. And those are the types of companies that said, oh, we could never, you could never work from home with this role. And then everybody figured it out. And now they're realizing every company can work from home and they don't need these office spaces and stuff. So it was kind of the ultimate stress test for everybody professionally to find out that they could do those things that they said that they couldn't do before.
Awesome. And for Pfizer mentions definitely the best guest lecture as of yet. Thank you.
I tried to avoid keeping it boring. I didn't want to have a boring snooze fest of a presentation. So I'm glad you guys liked it.
Amazing. And Saha Ali, she says that she loves the stickers and pins. How did you get started and how do you manufacture them?
Yeah, so there's this company here. Again, they're right in New York. It's called Sticker Mule, and they do these great promos for designers. So almost every week, if you go to stickermule.com/deals, they'll have 50 die cut stickers for $19 or 50 round stickers for $19. So like this is one of the die cut stickers that I did. And I'll wait for one of those promos to pop up, and then I'll just kind of either have a design pre-made or design something quickly, or take one of my current designs, change the colors on it just so there's some variance. And I wait for those promos and I order them when they're super cheap. So that way I have them at their cheapest price, and then I can resell them and have a good inventory, and I don't spend more than, I think all these stickers sitting here maybe cost me $300, and I have 20 different stickers in my inventory. So having that kind of stuff sitting around, it's great. Like I said, for interviews, I bought those little poly bags and I designed my own tops, and I like stapled them and stuff for when I go on interviews, so I can bring sticker packs to people in person. Having all those things just kind of sitting around for whenever you need them, super helpful. I strongly recommend it. People love takeaways, even if it's just friends. If you're giving your friends free stickers, they love that kind of stuff. And they'll say, like my friend who works at Facebook as a recruiter, he recommended me to somebody else because he said, you have one of the best websites. I've met him in person, we've hung out, we've had drinks. Selling, that's all part of selling your bigger personal brand, is making sure that people just like you and respect you as a person, and then they'll recommend you for everything.
Awesome. And Saidul Rahman, he asked, what happened at the Hasbro interview at the end? Did you keep in contact? What was the outcome?
So the Hasbro one was interesting. It was a 1-year contract, and I actually wanted to work there full time. I love that job. It was cool. We worked in a 100-year-old factory that used to be a Hasbro factory, and it's tough at Hasbro to get in full time because they they try to keep their company as lean as possible. So they hire 1-year contractors, they work them for a year, and then they say, all right, we're going to hire another contractor, and they pay less in benefits and all that kind of stuff. So they love saving their money that way, and it works out well for them. But if you're really good, they'll try to keep you around and keep you on full time. I just didn't, the timing didn't work out where there wasn't an available role while I was working there, so I couldn't stay on full time. And then they were definitely open to hiring me for freelance work after I left, until I worked for one of their biggest clients, which is Disney, and half of their products that they make are for Disney, Star Wars, Marvel, all that kind of stuff. So there was kind of a huge conflict of interest, because I was kind of double dipping on the same pot if I took any work from them, because I'd be working for Disney and also doing side work for Disney. So they nicely said, just to avoid any kind of ethics problems, we're gonna, not work with you anymore. But had I not found a full-time job, I would have just kept doing freelance work for Hasbro and stuff like that. So really good people. I love that company. I'm not ashamed to admit this, I like almost cried when I left there, because it was like working with people that you really love and enjoy working, with every single day. And then on the last day, they just say, hey, you're awesome, we love working with you, but you can't come back anymore, and that kind of, it's worse than getting fired, because they want you to be there, but you just can't come back and work for them anymore because of the 1-year contract. So and Rhode Island has a state law that you can't work for more than a year as a contractor, because they don't want people abusing it. At that point, you're a full-time employee, so they want you to have benefits and stuff. So yeah, Hasbro was great. I highly recommend them. Even though they didn't hire me full-time, I can't say anything more positive about that company.
Awesome. And Vanessa Magari, she's asked, has COVID made an impact on how you work?
Yeah, I mean, I work in this little box 9 to 5 every day. It's exhausting. And the other thing is, I'm a very social person, and that's kind of where my whole talk kind of comes from, is that I love talking with people and having, really, one-on-one conversations with people and really connecting with people. And, when I was working in the office in New York City, going and getting lunch with my coworkers and going and getting coffee with them, you really bond with these people that way. And it's been weird, because we hired about 16 people during the pandemic, and I don't think I've met any of these new people in person. You don't talk to them casually throughout the day. You have meetings where everybody's in it and you kind of talk to them there, but I don't really know these people, on a personal level. So while some people love the work from home life and everything, I miss just those connections with your employees on a day-to-day basis. I'm sure you guys miss that with your classmates. It's nice hanging out with your classmates after class and going and getting a beer and stuff like that. And to not be able to do that, you really miss out on a lot. So I would say, I'm taking it like a champ and doing like what everyone else is doing, what you got to do, but it's definitely not my preferred work method. I think the work life is going to change in the future, but I think having those in-person connections are just irreplaceable for people.
Definitely, totally agree with that one. And Luigi Palumbo is asking there, do you recommend Procreate?
I do. I have it on the iPad. I'm not the biggest drawer, but whenever there's an instance, I like doing the symmetry. Whenever I'm playing with my line work and stuff like that. I don't know if actually I can show you one thing really quick if you guys have a second. But yeah, Procreate's great. Again, I'm not the biggest illustrator, so it's definitely not my go-to, but I have created some cool stuff on here. So for Halloween, I created this spooky, oh, of course it's kind of dead, but you can still. So I created this spooky pumpkin illustration for Halloween, and then I recently did a design challenge at work at Disney, and I drew these very whimsical looking Mickey Mouse ears and stuff like that. So Procreate, couldn't highly recommend it anymore. It's $40, I think, and it's worth every penny for sure. So Procreate's great.
Awesome. And Mohi Dogra, he asks, the work you do is really amazing. What's your future plan that maybe in your mind, where you're going to take your skills to another level, some apparel or something else?
Yeah. So I love working in sports. It's been something that I just genuinely have so much fun doing. So my move as of, when I left the Patriots, the problem with working in sports is that it doesn't pay well until you get to higher up levels. So my move was I was going to leave sports, make the money that I wanted to make, and then later in my career, I want to be a creative director for a sports team, and I want to kind of have complete control over the look and feel of a sports team. And once I have that and I can kind of dictate that and help run a team of creatives and kind of really, see a campaign, a season-long campaign, tickets, merchandise, all that kind of stuff from start to finish, and do that year after year. That's something, I think that's my end goal, and that's what I really, really want to do. And the cool thing too is if you work for sports teams and they win a championship, the employees get a championship ring too. If I had stayed at the Patriots one more year, I would have got one from the Patriots. But you know, I left there and I got more money from leaving there than the ring was even worth if I had stayed. So I don't regret that decision. It's cool to have those kinds of things. But yeah, I like working in sports. I don't like people labeling me as a sports designer, as I mentioned earlier. I think I'm a good designer who can work in sports, not a sports designer. So when people ever try to call me a sports designer, I push back on that and I say, you know, I appreciate, you know, what you're saying. I'm like, but I'm a good designer who can just do sports, who can also do, you know, social media, who can do branding, who can do streaming services, whatever it might be. I can adapt depending on the role. I just happen to prefer sports, but I'm not a sports designer because I feel like you're discounting all the other things that I can do.
Definitely. And Ibrahim Javid, I think his final question coming up. What kind of things have you designed for Disney Plus?
So we do CTV and display ads. So display ads are what you would see on a regular website, and CTV is what you would see on Xbox, smart TVs, PlayStation, Apple. Even I've done stuff for the Apple App Store. So kind of if you log into any smart device and you see an ad for a specific Disney Plus title, there's a good chance myself or my team has worked on that. And what we do is we build these full sets of ads in about 100 different sizes, which is crazy. And then we take all those files and we send them to our international teams, and we'll translate them for EMEA, which is Europe, and we'll send them to South America and to Asia. And the teams that we send them to, they take our creative, they take the text out, and they put their proper languages in there, and our same ads get translated a bunch of times outside of our team. So it's pretty cool. So we're kind of the start of the web ads that you see, or the digital ads you see on smart devices, and then it goes out internationally, which is cool.
Awesome. And I guess I'll throw one in there as well. What are the tools that you use as a designer?
Yeah, I mean, I use the basic ones. I use Photoshop, Illustrator. You know what's funny is I have a Magic Mouse through work, and that's not really a tool, but I strongly preach about the $5 Amazon Basics mouse. I don't need flashy tools. I've learned, you know, the nice thing about the Magic Mouse is you can scroll sideways, all that kind of stuff. I figured out how to do that by holding, you know, the certain buttons on the keyboard to scroll horizontally and scroll vertically and zoom in and zoom out. And I'm definitely old school in that sense, that I just like less is more. I like simplicity, so I can quickly just do what I need to do with my shortcuts. But I know people love their Logitech MX Masters, which have like 40 buttons on them, and they're gaming keyboards that light up and all that kind of stuff. I'm very simple when it comes to my tools. I have a good scanner. Scanners are great for if you want to create your own textures and that kind of thing. I love that. I have a nice big printer that prints 13 by 19. So eventually I'm going to do some 12 by 12 inch prints for my website, and I'm going to print them here locally and sell them. And having multiple monitors, all that kind of stuff. And again, a cool space to create in, I think, is super key. But when it comes to tools, I'm pretty easygoing. Just kind of the simple basics is all I really need. Bunch of hard drives too. Back up your work. I've lost work on hard drives before, and I had to pay $700 to have a hard drive saved that died. So now I don't even know where they're sitting. They're over here. But now I have this massive stack of hard drives to back things up numerous times. So I can't recommend that enough to people. No matter what kind of work you're doing, just make sure you back it up. Buy 2 hard drives, buy 3. It's worth it.
Amazing. Tyler, so thanks a lot for taking out your time to join us all the way from New York City. If you're obviously ever coming over to the UK and London, feel free to drop us a line, and we'd love to host you as well on campus.
Totally.
And for all of the students and staff and all of the participants, it's been a fantastic 8 weeks so far. A really diverse range of designers and engineers and makers. And whilst we conclude the series for the calendar year, we really look forward to catching up with all of you again and seeing you guys in the new year, 2021, January, and keep an eye on your emails as well for details of the talk and the speakers. So stay well, stay safe, have a brilliant break from the end of next week, and I look forward to seeing you all again in the new year.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it. Bye, everybody. Thank you.
Thank you, Tyler.
Thanks, Tyler.